Okay, let's go. Really nice to see everyone once again. It's really an amazing thing that you guys give up this Wednesday night to learn Torah. Once again, as always, our learning should be as a refuah sheleimah for Shira, Bas Devorah Leah, who needs a refuah sheleimah as well tonight. Our learning should be as a refuah sheleimah for Chaya Bat Miriam, the Mrs. Kessler's mother who is in the hospital and also needs a refuah sheleimah. We should have both of them in mind. And Amir Hashem, our efforts, our learning, our giving of this time should serve as a refuah sheleimah for both of them. Awesome. I'm going to share my screen and let's get cracking. Just so everyone knows, though, I believe this, when for the first few seconds, it's very blurry, but I believe it should be fixed after a little bit. So if it's a little blurry at first, just have a little bit of patience. Okay, let's go. This week's Parsha is Parshas Tetzaveh. And one of the focal points, one of the most important parts of the Parsha is the discussion of the Big Day Kahuna, the clothing that the Kohen would wear, 4 begadim, 4 special articles of clothing that would be worn by the regular Kohanim, and 4 additional articles of clothing that would be worn by the Kohen Gadol. The pasuk tells us in Parshas Tetzaveh, "Ve'asisa Big Day Kodesh." There is a special mitzvah in the Torah to make Big Day Kodesh, to have holy, special clothing that were worn by the Kohanim as they would do the avodah, as they would do the service in the Mishkan, and ultimately in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, the Gemara in Mesaches Zvachim says something very, very interesting and to me a little bit perplexing about the power, the koach that these begadim have. The Gemara says in Mesaches Zvachim, Bizman, second source, Bizman shebigdeihem aleihem, that as long as the Kohen had these articles of clothing, as long as the Kohen was wearing the Big Day Kahuna, Kahunasam aleihem, they had the status of a Kohen. That as long as they were wearing their special clothing, they were able to do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, and they had their level, they had their status of being a Kohen. Continues the Gemara, Ein Big Day Aleim, and as if the Kohen was not wearing the clothing, the Big Day Kahuna, then Ein Kahunasam Aleim. Then Ein Kahunasam Aleim, they do not have the ability to act as the Kohen. They can't really do any of the avodah, any of the service in the Beis Hamikdash. Now my question is very simple. I don't understand. What power does this clothing have? What are we talking, Harry Potter with the invisible cloak that all of a sudden he puts it over himself and now he's invisible, but the second it's off he can be seen? What's the idea? What's the power? What is some superhero? You put on a cape and all of a sudden you could fly? Why is it that the Gemara teaches us at the Big Day Kahuna, that the clothing that the Kohen would wear was so powerful, so important, that the Kohen, doesn't really matter what's going on inside of him, but as long as he's wearing the special clothes, he's good, he could do the avodah. What's so special about the clothing, and why does it give him so much power? So I'd like to point to what the Sefer HaChinuch writes. Now, for those who don't know, the Sefer HaChinuch, one of the Rishonim, one of the Mefarshim, who goes through all of the mitzvos, all 613 mitzvos, and discusses them and describes them and teaches us a little bit about them. And something special that the Sefer HaChinuch does is he actually goes through the idea behind all of the mitzvos, to help us connect to them, to help us find meaning in them, to help us understand them on a deeper level. So when it comes to mitzvah tzadi test, the 99th mitzvah in the Torah, it's the mitzvah of Levishas Big Day Kahuna. It's the mitzvah of the Kohen wearing the special clothing. So the Sefer HaChinuch tries to teach us what is so special, what is so powerful about this special clothing that the Kohen would wear. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, Misharshei HaMitzvah, the essence, the idea behind this mitzvah is the following. Hayesod HaKavu Alanu. It's a very, very important idea for us to understand, and not only to understand intellectually, but for us to internalize, for us to live with this important idea. Ki ha'adam nifal lefi pe'ulosav. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, a person is affected by his actions. That our actions, what we do, really matters. V'acharehem machshevosav v'kavonosav. And after our actions, based on the things that we do or the clothing that we wear, our thoughts, our internal ideas, who we are is affected, right? A lot of times we think what's really important is what's on the inside. I'm sure many of us hear that from our parents all the time, and they're right. What matters is how do I have the right kavana, the right concentration, the right thinking. A lot of times you say that, you shouldn't just do it, just do it like a robot. You shouldn't just do it, but you should feel it and you should think about it. And that's certainly true. But the Sefer HaChinuch is teaching us a very, very important idea, that it's true that what's inside matters, but we can't think that the outside stuff doesn't matter as well. The clothing that we wear, the actions that we do, even if we're not totally feeling it, wake up one morning and I'm like, I just don't feel it today. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, we're still going to be positively affected by what we do and by what we wear. V'hashliach hamechaper, and the person, the Kohen that we're sending to atone for the Jewish people, to do the service in the Beis HaMikdash, tzarich lahatpis kol machshavoso v'kavanoso el ha'avoda. His job is to bring atonement, is to bring kapara for the Jewish people. He needs to have all of his thought and all of his whole mind has to be focused and directed towards serving Hashem. Al Kain, therefore, therefore, it's so critical, says the Sefer HaChinuch, that a person wears clothing that are special. These special clothing. Why? Because when he looks at any part of his body, think about it, the Kohen's doing the avoda, doing the service in the Mishkan, all of a sudden he looks at his choshen, he looks at his avnei, he looks at his at any one of the various articles of clothing. And what's going to happen? Miyad, immediately, niskar. He's going to remember and recognize. Umisorer, and he's going to be awakened to the importance, believe it in his heart. Lifnei before mihu ovid. Who is he serving? He's going to look at his clothing, and immediately he's going to be reminded. I'm not just here, going through the motions, but I'm connecting to the Rabboni Shalom. I'm serving the Rabboni Shalom. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, our clothing matters, not because it gives us some superpower to do crazy stuff, because it affects our thoughts, it affects our concentration, it affects our lives. The clothing that we wear represents the people who we are. Are we serving Hashem? Are we connecting to Hashem or not? If you think about it, if you speak to a soldier in the Israeli army, or quite frankly in any army, in the American army, they'll tell you that if they aren't wearing exactly the correct uniform, the lapel in the exact right place, the helmet on in the exact right way, if you're not wearing exactly the right uniform, you're going to get fined, you're going to get in trouble, you're not going to be able to serve. Why? Because having the pin in the right place is going to help me do the work that I got to do as a soldier in the army? No, the pin doesn't really matter. But the point is that when we wear clothing, when the pins are appropriate, when the uniform is being worn in the right way, that affects if I'm going to be a good soldier. That affects what I'm going to do. And the same is true if you think about it. And it comes to sports, basketball. Imagine if you show up to a basketball game or a hockey game and you're wearing a white shirt and black pants. People are going to think, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to be an effective hockey player, a basketball player, whatever. You're just not going to be good if you're wearing clothing that doesn't match that which you're looking to do. Right? If you're swimming, you should wear a bathing suit. You shouldn't wear shorts and a t-shirt. You should wear the clothing that is appropriate, that will help you achieve the goal that you're setting out for yourself, that you're hoping to achieve. The same is true when it comes to davening. Right? Are we wearing clothing during davening that will help me focus, that will help me concentrate, that will help me remember and recognize what I'm doing? I'm standing in front of Hashem. I'm talking to the creator of the world. Am I dressed for that or not? And that's what the Sefer HaChinuch says. The power of the big dekun, the power of the clothing that the Kohen would wear helps him focus, helps him concentrate, helps him understand that which he's looking to do, and ultimately that which he's looking to be. But perhaps the other side of that same coin, when it comes to clothing, is not only in terms of helping us achieve our goals, helping us concentrate, helping us focus on what we're looking to do and what we're looking to be, but there's also something like a little bit of a pride in what we wear. It's a little bit of a pride of what we're wearing. The Medrash tells us in numerous places, I just happen to put this Medrash from Parshas Kisavo, where the Medrash says that in Mitzrayim, the Jews, we know were Mitsuyanim, which we talk about at the night of the Seder. We were special, we were unique. There were certain things that we maintained, that we still did in Egypt, even though we were surrounded by terrible, terrible people. The Egyptians were immoral, terrible people, but we still maintained, we still kept certain things. Says the Medrash, one of the things that we kept in Mitzrayim was we didn't change our clothing. We kept our clothing the same. Why? Why we change our clothing? Why not anything else? Because we had a certain level of pride. We still remembered that we're the grandchildren of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We have to represent them. We have to connect to them. There's something prideful about who we are and what we do. The Rambam similarly tells us in Hilchos Avodah Zarah that one of the things that a Jew must always do, and again, it's different for everyone, right? We're not saying what you should wear, but it's just important in thinking that when I get dressed in the morning, when I'm going to daven and learn that day, what am I going to wear? What do I want to stand in front of Hashem with? What clothing do I want on me when I'm standing in front of Hashem? Says the Rambam, Ela HaYisrael Muvdo Mehen V'Yadua B'Malbusho Uv'Shar Maisav. Says the Rambam, our clothing should identify that I'm different. I'm proud of my relationship with Hashem. I'm a member of Klal Yisrael. I'm a member of the Jewish people. I have a unique relationship. I'm Hashem's child. Does my clothing reflect that? Does my clothing help me remember the close relationship that I have with Hashem? And the Shulchan Aruch, who tells us everything that we have to do when it comes to halacha, the Shulchan Aruch says, the very, very beginning, before he talks about pretty much any other halacha, the Shulchan Aruch says, "V'lo yisbayish mipnei bnei adam." You shouldn't be embarrassed in front of anyone. A lot of times we think, we're going to go into the world and I want to be like everyone else. And I'm like, okay, I wear a kippah, maybe I take off my kippah, I wear a hat because I don't want people to notice. I don't want people to focus on me. We should be proud. We should be proud of who we are. We should be proud of what we're doing. I remember when I was in 10th grade, I went to an EMT course. I became an EMT. And it was kind of like this awkward situation where you go to the bathroom. I'm sure many of us have had this experience where you go to the bathroom and you're in public, and after the bathroom you want to say Asher Yatzar, but you don't want to look like you're talking to yourself. So I put my phone up to my ear, and I sort of went like this, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Asher Yatzar et ha'adam b'chachma u'v'revo nekav b'chadam. And I made the bracha of Asher Yatzar, basically pretending as if I was talking on my phone because I was embarrassed about the fact that I was thanking Hashem for going to the bathroom. And of course, one of my friends who wasn't Jewish, who was part of this program, asked me, like, what are you talking in Hebrew? What are you doing? So I actually told him, I said, I'm making a special prayer, thanking God for the fact that I'm able to go to the bathroom and my body, Baruch Hashem, thank God, is working properly. And he was blown away. He's like, what? Every time you go to the bathroom, you thank your God? That's insane. How often do we think that way? How often are we like, oh my gosh, we're connecting to Hashem. We're making brachot all the time. We're doing so many things that are so incredible, bringing Hashem into the world. How often are we like, I'm a little embarrassed. I don't want people to notice. I don't want people to really realize what I'm doing. Or how often do I think I'm really proud of myself? I'm proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud of the relationship with Hashem that I have. And that's what clothing has the ability to do. I remember another conversation also when I was in this EMT course. And again, I was surrounded by people that most of whom weren't Jewish, some of whom were Jewish, but certainly not religious. And I remember there was something that happened. They wanted me to come to something on Shabbos. Obviously, I told them, it's my Saturday. I can't come. So another one of my friends that was in the course with me was like, what do you mean it was Saturday? You can't come. You have to come. It's part of the program. I'm like, listen, I have this thing called Shabbat. And on Shabbat, I don't work. I don't do things. I spend time with my family, with my friends. I pray. I sing. I eat food. It's a really great day. And he was like, what? I'm like, I disconnect from my phone. I'm not on Facebook or anything. I'm just in the moment with the people that actually mattered in my life. And he was blown away. And that helped me realize how proud I should be. That every week I was like embarrassed. Shabbos, I'm sorry. I was like apologizing. I shouldn't apologize. We should be proud. We should be happy and feel amazing about who we are and about what we do. And that's where the big day kahuna come in. The Kohen, just like the Kohen, has their job, has their role, has their avoda in the Mishkan and in the Beis HaMikdash. And they wear clothing that show them and show everyone else. We're special. We have a job to do. Same is true with us. When we have a kippah or a tzitzit or whatever articles of clothing we wear that remind us, our tefillin, anything else, do we focus and think about how proud we are to have a relationship with Hashem, to be part of Hashem's chosen people, or are we embarrassed? And that's really the second part of what the power of clothing is, being proud of who we are and being proud of what we do. Just to finish off with one final idea, and this, I certainly wouldn't say it if it wasn't a midrash, if it wasn't something that was clear that the Chazal wrote this down. I certainly wouldn't say this about our leader Moshe Rabbeinu, but they did, so I can't say it. The Psukim tell us in the second Perek Bet of Sefer Shemot. It's talking about when Moshe Rabbeinu is running away from power, he's running away from Mitzrayim. He just killed a Mitzri, and he runs and he sees the daughters of Yisro, and they're by the field, and there are these mean shepherds that are beating them by the well. And Moshe Rabbeinu comes to the rescue, saves them. They run away to Yisro. And the pasuk says in Parak Beis, pasuk Yotes, Vatomarna, they said to Yisro, Ish Mitzri hitzilenu miyad harom. This Egyptian man, they call Moshe an Egyptian man. This Egyptian man, he saved us from the shepherds. This Egyptian man saved us from the shepherds. Okay, this Egyptian man saved us from the shepherds. Says the Midrash, quoting this pasuk, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Medrash wants to know, why was it that Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately wasn't allowed to go into Eretz Yisrael? What did he do wrong? So most of us think what he did wrong was he didn't speak to the rock. He hit the rock, which he shouldn't have done. That's certainly true. But says the Midrash something else. The Midrash says, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Misha hoda ba'arzo, nikbar ba'arzo, Misha lo hoda ba'arzo, eno nikbar ba'arzo. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, those people that are proud of being Jewish, they can be buried in Eretz Yisrael. Those who are not proud of being Jewish, they cannot be buried in Eretz Yisrael. You will let these Egyptians, these girls, think that you're an Ish Mitzri, that you're an Egyptian, that you're sorry, that you're an Egyptian man. They couldn't tell that you were the son of Amram, that you were a descendant of Levi and of Yaakov and of Yitzchak. They couldn't tell who you are and what you represented. They called you an Ish Mitzri. You can't be buried in Eretz Yisrael. We can only be buried in Eretz Yisrael if you are proud of who you are and if you're proud of where you come from. I'm just going to stop sharing as I finish with one more quick story that I think really brings this idea home a little bit more. A bunch of years ago, I was in Camp Simcha, which is a camp for children who unfortunately have various sicknesses, and they're not so well. And I remember I was involved in bringing CC Sabathia, a pitcher from the New York Yankees, to Camp Simcha. And at one point before CC went on to the stage, I was talking with him a little bit, and I said to him, I asked him, this is what I like to ask a lot of famous people. I didn't tell him that I was a Mets fan because then he probably would have decked me in the face. But I said to him, I'm like, what was your proudest moment as a player? What was your proudest moment as a Major League Baseball player, someone who's probably going to make the Hall of Fame? And he said about himself, he said, my proudest moment was when I put on that jersey for the first time. When I put on that Major League Baseball jersey. He also said that even when he put on the Yankee jersey, that it was even more like, wow, because the Yankees are like the best team, he said. I disagree, but that's fine. For him, that putting on that jersey, it didn't even have his name on it. The Yankees don't put their names on the back of their jersey. But for him putting on that jersey, I'm a Major League Baseball player. It wasn't a statistic that he got. It wasn't a strikeout. It wasn't a win. It wasn't a World Series. It was the jersey. And that's what we have the ability to do. We can put on the jersey. We can be proud of who we are. We can affect ourselves and always remember the relationship with Hashem that we continue to have, and hopefully the light of Hashem that we continue to bring into the world. Guys, shkoyach to each and every one of you for joining us.